just what I'd love to see while we're getting started is tell me who you are and where you're from in the chat. Let's see who we've got here. Just introduce yourself quick, maybe your name, it'll show your name, tell me what state you're from, maybe the name of your district. We'd love to know that. So Jackie, Joni, Michelle, it's great to see you. Oh, now all the names are coming in. I'm not going to be able to say everybody's name, but we're so excited to have you here. And I am really, really excited to talk about these things. So again, one more time, a little housekeeping since we've got a few more people joining us. We're going to leverage both the Q&A and the chat features. So chat is for introducing yourself and for, comments, conversation, connecting with others. The Q&A is where you're going to add your questions, and then one of the people who's supporting this event will surface that question, and we'll see if we can get them all answered. If we don't get to them, don't worry, we'll send a follow-up. But we are here to talk today about ways that Praxis wants to help you advance your educator's path to certification. So I'm going to jump right in now. We've got a nice agenda here. As you can see, we're going to go over some testing support services. I'm going to explain what these different services are. We will get to pricing, and then if we have more Q&A at the end, I'll stick around and answer some questions. I love seeing these names come in, so please tell us where you're from, tell us what district you're with or what institution. Maybe you're with a higher ed institution, maybe you're with a private institution. Let us know where you're from. All right, so my name is Mindy Hinsey, and I'm Director of Partner Success. A little bit about me is I'm a former educator. I was in the classroom for about 15 years and then moved on to some district level stuff and program director stuff. Became an educational technologist and have been in the ed tech and professional development space for quite some time now. I've been with ETS for just over 18 months, and it's just more and more exciting every day here. So a little bit about ETS. You probably all know us as the global assessment and research company. We've been around for a while. We're a nonprofit, been around for about 75 years, and you might recognize some of those assessment titles like Praxis, GRE, and TOEFL. Now, Praxis, we're expanding a little bit, and we offer now comprehensive research-based solutions that are designed to support educators at every stage of their journey in their career. Now, we know that there's no slowing down of the national teacher shortages, and we have solutions to support every stage of that staffing journey. And that's really what we're going to talk about today, some of that. Whether it's building and expanding your pipeline with qualified international teachers or grow your own programs with licensure pathways for paraeducators, to Praxis testing support services to help those teachers who may be on provisional or emergency certifications, to ongoing educator growth with upskilling and targeted professional development, along with low-cost degree programs that can help with your retention efforts too. Praxis has expanded to all of these things, so you might not have known about these services in the past, and so I'm delighted that you are here to learn about them today. Now, in today's webinar, we're really going to focus on just one of these areas, the Praxis testing support services, because we listened to some pretty heartbreaking stories. We heard from teachers who were saying, you know what, I had to take time off of work to go sit for the exam, or it was really difficult for me to even get to the testing center because it's so far away, there isn't one close to me. We heard many of these stories. These are just a few examples. And these stories aren't about ability, they're about barriers. And that's why ETS Praxis has created our testing support services. So what are testing support services? Well, in this suite of services, we have three primary services: the pop-up test centers for pop-up testing, and that's what I'm most excited about, customer-supported private test centers, and some additional test prep resources. So pop-up test centers, what the heck is that? It's really cool. It's a pop-up test center. You've heard of like pop-up boutiques or pop-up events. It's just like that. So what happens is we send all of the testing stations including the technology, so the laptops, the partitions, all of the materials that any test taker would need. We also send the on-site technical support and proctors, so real humans helping out on site. They do all the setup and the teardown, and all that the customer needs to provide is a space that meets our requirements. So this is really cool. We can do this for small groups or large groups. And we've done a few of these already, and I'm going to tell you about those in just a second. But some of the benefits about these pop-up test centers is that we've really seen that this reduces test anxiety. And we know that some test takers, some educators might struggle to pass just by 1 or 2 questions because of anxiety. And if we can just eliminate some of that, that's going to be the difference in whether they pass or not. So we know that these pop-up test centers reduce test anxiety. They also increase tester confidence, and they improve visibility for you as leaders, knowing who's testing and when. So think about, we can get so creative with this, because if it's your space, you have control of when that space is open and when those test times happen. So we can schedule them on, your in-service days or on weekends or even on evenings, so that your teachers don't have to take time off away from the classroom to pass a Praxis exam. And this is also a really great way to show your care and investment in your educators. So this is what it might look like. It might look like, we set up some tables in a conference room. We've done this at annual conferences. We've done this in corporate buildings, in conference rooms. So really, we just need a space that meets our technical requirements. Okay, here's a couple testimonials. For Educators Rising, we have done a pop-up test event at their annual conference, and these are for CTE students, so high school students who are in the CTE program in the teacher pathways or teacher strand. And we've gone ahead and put up a testing center at their conference in one of the conference rooms. And we've had students take both the para-educator exam, the paraprofessional exam, and some of the Praxis core exams. And it's been very well received. Students feel very comfortable coming in, and they're testing with their peers. It's awesome. And then for an alternate educator prep program with Kiulani, we did a pop-up test center for them as well. Now, for Educators Rising, it was at a large hotel where their annual conference was happening, just in one of their ballrooms. And for oh my gosh, for Kiulani's organization, we did this just in their corporate office in a conference room. So lots of flexibility about where we can do this. Now, the timeline for this, to get this set up, we do have to plan a little bit, because there is some vetting that has to happen. We do need to identify a location and make sure that it meets our requirements. We might have to meet with your IT team to make sure that we can do the connect to the internet or to your network. And then we need to just assess the space. So there are some spacing requirements. We take care of all of that as long as you give us the dimensions and send us some pictures. We can get you approved and we get it going. So 10 weeks is a good timeline that I've seen with organizations, because if we have to coordinate with building supervisors or scheduling rooms, we just want to make sure that we've got enough time to get that done. So 10 weeks is a really good timeline for that. Okay, so before I move on to the customer supported, are there any questions, Vinay?
Yeah, Mindy, a couple sort of questions around the logistics. One is, how should a district think about like the best location for a pop-up
Yeah, that's a
test
great
event?
question.
And also, like, what are the sort of staffing requirements on the district side for something like this? Like, if they're sort of short-staffed, is that an issue?
Yeah. Okay, so first let me start with the best type of location. So recommendations are rooms that are well lit and that are maybe not in the center of a lot of conversations. So we want to make sure that that testing environment can be as quiet as possible for the test takers. So if we're in a conference room that has all glass windows, it's not really soundproof, and there's constantly people walking around and having conversations outside, that might not be the best location. The other thing that we want to think about is, are there lots of things on the wall and lots of furniture that's going to need to be moved? Depending on what's on the walls, we might have to cover things up or take posters down just to maintain the test security. But I think the biggest the biggest advice that I could give about picking a location is pick one that your teachers know where to get, how to get to it, right? We want to eliminate that. Where am I supposed to go? What's parking going to be like? Make it a place that they're familiar with or that has adequate parking, and then just consider some of those other things about creating the best environment. And then Vinay, you said there was another question and I don't remember it because
Yeah,
ADHD.
all good. Staffing. What is the
Oh,
staffing
staffing.
expectations for a
Yeah.
district on?
Yeah, so for the pop-up test center, we bring all the staffing, so you don't need to worry about that at all. I know that you probably are, there might need to be like some type of personnel there to let us in, to let us out, um, and maybe to be there while the event is happening. But as far as staffing, the actual check-in process, testing process, we handle all of that. We send all the staff. All right. And I do see a couple questions in the chat, so I am going to answer a couple of these just because I see them there. So the minimum number of participants to host a pop-up, I don't know that we really have a minimum. We can create a bespoke or custom package just for you. And yes, we can test multiple Praxis exams on the same day. And yes, we can do them on a Saturday. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next slide now. So if you'll keep watching those questions and interrupt me if needed. But let's move on to what we're calling our customer-supported private test center. Now, to piggyback off of one of the questions that Vinay asked me about staffing, what if you've got all the staff? What if you have a computer lab that's already there and it's not being well utilized? You could become your own test center. And by making it private, you get some additional services from ETS. And what that by private, what we mean is it's only your approved test takers. So whether these are your paraprofessionals who are needing to take the paraeducator or the parapro exam so that they can serve in Title I schools, or if these are some of your educators who are on provisional licenses or want to add an additional endorsement, you've got the space, you've got the staff, you've got the computers. We can go ahead and do that. Now, there is a little bit longer vetting process for this. You provide the space, you provide the proctors, you provide the computers and all of the compliant network stuff. We provide training and we provide reporting on registrations, completions, and results. So it's kind of a hybrid model where you're doing some of the work and we're doing some of the work. But I think that this might be a good fit for some of you, depending on how many teachers over time or how many educators over time you might need to help with the Praxis exam. And then some of the benefits of this is that you get a private test center just for your test takers. And you get visibility into who's taking the test, when they take it, and their results. And this also reduces anxiety, increases confidence. Again, testers can be in that welcoming, warm environment. You can do cohort-based testing. You can schedule the tests for times that are convenient for you. And I think, oh, so yep, we've got a little case study with a large district that we're working with right now. So the district is receiving an on-site Praxis test center. They've got the space and the computers. They get exclusive testing windows for their educators, and they get monthly scheduling support from us. We're providing registration support. We can provide remote proctoring if they're a little understaffed because there is a ratio of live proctors to students. So if you're a little understaffed that way, we can do remote proctoring. And we provide some reports on registrations, completions, and results. We also are providing some communication templates. So the district is responsible for going through the site certification process, and they need to meet the staffing standards. And again, we can help out with that if needed. But so pop-up test center, we send all the equipment, we send all the people. District or customer supported private test center, customers primarily handling the equipment and the proctoring. We're doing some additional, behind the scenes support. And the timeline to implement a private test center, you can see here, let's see if I count backwards, that's 2 weeks, 3, 4, 5. It's about 6 to 7 weeks to get up and running. So you go through a little vetting process and then some training, and then you're ready to go. So pretty easy peasy. As long as your team is ready to rock and roll, we can move as fast as you want to. Okay, so Vinay, are there any questions about district supported centers or customer supported? Okay, I'm not hearing anything.
No,
Oh,
sorry,
that's
one
okay.
second. Yes, there was, I answered it in the chat, but it's probably worth answering up here as well. The question was, sorry, can we limit or give priority to testers from our campus at a private center, or do they have to be open to everyone?
Yeah, that's a great question. And no, with a private test center, that is one of the services that we provide, is that we ensure that it's only your, I'm going to use quotes, approved testers. So whether that's your students, your educators, people that are in a specific program with you, you get to say these are the only people who are allowed to take a test at this particular center. We ensure that for you. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of questions come in the chat. Just a reminder, pop those in the Q&A section. So if you don't see Q&A at the bottom of your screen or on your toolbar, click on the circle with the 3 dots, and that should give you access to the question and answer section. That's where you can post those. Okay, I'm seeing some other questions in the chat, but Vinay, I'm going to let you answer those unless there's something you want me to verbalize.
I mean, we are getting a lot of questions so far around pricing, so I think it's probably worth it. We are planning to address pricing
Yes,
later on
we
in this
are.
presentation, so if people can be patient. We will get to that together
Yeah,
in a little bit.
yep, we're going to
But
get there.
but
I
we
promise.
obviously understand that's top of mind for everyone, and we
Yes,
plan to address it head on.
thank you. All right, so now let's move into the third part of our testing support services, test preparation. And I think that we've got a pretty robust bench here. So what we can offer to you are test readiness workshops, and these are delivered by our own ETS Praxis experts. So these are the designers of the test. And these test readiness workshops are really focusing on test taking strategies specific um, to individual test titles. I don't know that I worded that quite the right way, but I think you all get what I'm trying to say. So there's general test taking strategies, but then because these are the test developers and the test designers, they are going to dig into some of the specifics on those specific test titles if that's what you want. And these are done live, they're virtual, they are interactive. Everybody's split up into small groups to work through sample questions. And the length of these webinars kind of depend, or these workshops kind of depend on the test title. As you can imagine, going over test taking strategies for a test that has 300 questions might look a little bit different from going over test taking strategies for a test that has 55 questions. We also have some study companions for every single test title, as well as interactive practice tests that are online, simulate the real testing experience. And then through some of our strategic partners, we can also offer content area tutoring and coaching or mentoring. So those test readiness workshops that our experts provide, these are not content knowledge building. So I'm going to use a very oversimplified example here. But if someone is struggling to pass the Praxis core math test because they don't know their fractions, our test readiness workshops aren't going to teach them fractions. But that's where our partners can come into play and can provide that content level support if needed. So between the things that we can do internally just through ETSers and through some of our strategic partners, we can build an entire package that will really meet the needs of your educators or your cohort of teachers or people who need to take the Praxis exam. So some of our partner solutions, we've got 4 that I'm going to highlight: study.com, Engage to Learn, 2 Revolutions, and 240 Tutoring. You can read that slide probably faster than I can read it out loud to you, but just know that we can use Praxis data, whether it's historical Praxis data or practice test data, that then can be used to individualize or customize the type of professional development, tutoring, coaching that you would receive from one of these partners. Okay, I'm going to keep moving on here. So here's an example of a customized package that we've done for a large district. So we're doing some test prep. So they get an exclusive practice test readiness webinar once a month. They get live guidance on test structure, study strategies, and test day expectations. Then they're running a customer supported private test center. So only registration is only accessible for their approved test takers, and they get to control the testing dates and times. And then we're also supporting them with email templates around communication, around registration, reminders, accommodations, things like that, as well as some biweekly reporting on test taker status. That's just one example. All of these individual services that I've talked about can be mixed and matched and combined in ways that best suit your needs. So before I go on, I think, yep, before I get to pricing, are there any other questions around?
Yes.
Okay.
What flexibility do we have over test dates and the volume of testers we can accommodate?
That's a great question. So the test dates are dependent on the annual schedule. So as some of you might know, certain tests have certain testing windows. Some tests are available all the time. Others are only available during certain windows. So we follow that same structure. We can't go outside of those windows. So unfortunately, so even if you have a test taker who needs a test that isn't available until 2 weeks in the future, we can't change that. So we have to follow those testing windows. And oh my gosh, the timing, you can select the time. As I've mentioned before, you could do testing in the evening, on the weekends, during school closure days, no student days, things like that. Was there another part to that question that I missed? I feel like I just kind of rambled.
Test dates and then volume of testers.
Oh,
Would
volume
you address
testers.
that?
So we can handle some pretty large groups. I think we've got enough equipment and enough staffing to support that. Where we will be doing an event with 70 concurrent test takers in the next couple of weeks, and we are in the planning stages right now of one to do for an event where a pop-up where we're going to do about 200 concurrent test takers. So I think as long as the space can accommodate the stations, we can make it happen. Yeah, great questions.
One question specific to the private testing the
Mhm.
district or EPP provided is what is the period length of customized package as you reference a webinar each month? How many months? So is there a minimum commitment months basically?
I don't think there is a minimum commitment. I might defer to you, Vinay, on that question, but there's no minimum commitment. This particular program or package that I'm showing you right now is a 4-month program. So over 4 months, they will do 4 webinars, 4 test readiness webinars, and the other services kind of folded into that. But another organization that I'm working with right now, we just finished up the first kind of round of this that was a 6-month program, and we're now looking at extending it for 2 more years. So I think
Yeah.
that we can build the package to meet your needs.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that, which is ultimately what we want to do is these where we have seen these sort of become really valuable is in specific areas like, I have a bunch of teachers currently who are emergency certified, who are running out of time on their license, for example. So where we would encourage us to start the conversation is like, let's start with sort of the goals and work backwards from that, which is like, I have X number of teachers. I want to have 100% of them have an opportunity to get licensed before their time runs out. Help me work backwards of how many months we need to work together to give enough test dates and enough opportunities for all of them to be able to have a fair shake at getting over the hump type thing versus sort of starting with an arbitrary number of months type thing.
Yeah.
So we really want to work with you all from a solutions orientation and work backwards from the goal in mind, right? Because ultimately that's what matters most is keeping as many of these teachers in the classroom as we can, right?
Yes, your answer was much more eloquent than mine. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to move on to the last few slides. So pricing, I know you've all been waiting for this pricing. So I'm just going to start by saying the best way to get pricing is to just schedule a meeting with us so that we can really dig into what your specific needs are, like Vinay was saying, and do some backwards design. So you can scan that code right there if you want to book a meeting with our team, or Rachel just dropped the meeting link to schedule in the chat. So feel free to click on that. But I can talk high level about some of these. Now, keep in mind that these are base prices and there's volume and bulk discounts on everything. And the more things we combine together, the bigger discounts we can give. So first, the test readiness workshops. So those start at about $2,000 for up to 15 people in the webinar. And we try to keep those numbers a little bit lower just so that we can have that virtual interactivity. Of course, the more you purchase, the bigger discount we can give. Interactive practice tests, those start at about $24.95 each. And again, as an institution, if you want to buy those in bulk so that your teachers or educators or paras can take these practice exams or practice tests, we can do some bulk discounting as well. And the same goes for the Praxis test vouchers. So if you want to also pay for and provide the actual test fee for your cohort or for your educators, we can look at discounts on that too. And the Praxis test, you probably already know this, that they range anywhere from, anywhere up to $450 depending on the test. Now the pop-up test center and the custom supported test center and the coaching and mentoring, this is all customized pricing depending on volume, um, location, and all sorts of things like that. So that's where we would really need to talk to you before I can offer a price. So schedule that meeting if you've got more questions around that, and we would love to chat with you about it. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide. Just a reminder, put any questions in the Q&A section if you have any more. And I'm just going to ask Vinay, are there any other questions that I can answer at this time?
Can you maybe explain a little bit more what exactly we mean by an interactive practice test or an IPT?
You bet. An interactive practice test is an online practice exam that simulates the real test taking experience. So it's online, and interactive means that you are engaging with the content in the online experience, in the online space. Any other questions? I feel like I'm, doing that educator waiting 8 seconds. Okay. That's just another thank you slide. I think that's it. Oh, we do have some additional links, some helpful links at the end of this. So when we send this out, you'll have access to all of those links. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Or maybe I'll go back to this in case you want to scan that QR code.
There is another question we'd love to surface, actually,
Okay.
Mindy.
Okay.
It's more of an IT question. What happens if our network or devices don't initially meet ETS specification? And I think this is probably more for the private testing option.
Sure. Yeah, if your equipment doesn't meet the specifications, we'll make sure that you know what those are. But there are certain requirements for the equipment and the space that have to be met in order for the space to be approved as a test center. So all of that is available on our website. I don't know that I can get to it right now, but we can make sure that we send that out. Or you can Google Praxis to become a Praxis test center. I'm sure someone here can help us find that link, but I hope that answered the question.
Yep.
Okay. I know that I spoke really fast. I know that I went through a lot of content. So just again to highlight, what we've got going on here. We do have a lot of services. We focused a lot on the Praxis testing support services today. Hopefully we'll be doing more webinars to talk about some of the other services and programs that we've got going on. But the new Praxis partnerships team is excited to be here, and we would really love to help you support your educator workforce, whether that's, you know, providing pop-up testing, or maybe just test prep workshops or test readiness workshops, or a complete bespoke package just for you, let us know. We'd love to chat.
One last question. If a district wants both a pop-up test center and ongoing test readiness workshops, how do you sequence the rollout?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that back to Vinay's comment earlier, we would really want to start with the end in mind and do some backwards design on that. You know, what programming do you have in place? Are you going to be offering some professional development or workshops on your own? Let's just talk about what your desired timeline is. And I don't know that there is a right or wrong answer or even a best practice around that, other than really starting with your end goals in mind, and we'll backwards design from there. Okay. We'll give it just a couple more minutes in case anybody has any other pressing questions, but I think we're pretty much done with the content. So if you've received all the information you need, thanks for joining us. We'd love to see you schedule a meeting with us so that we can chat more about your Praxis testing support needs and how we can help you support your educators, how you can show your, help you show your interest and your dedication to your staff, and keep teachers in the classroom, right? At the end of the day, this is all about making sure that we've got high quality, certified, fully licensed teachers in the classroom, because that has the biggest impact on student outcomes. We want to make sure that students are taken care of uh, and have the best educators in front of them. So thank you so much for being here. We'll make sure you get the recording, and I'm just going to stop talking now. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Mindy.
Thank you.